If you're investing more than $500,000 into your Bitcoin and digital asset portfolio, here's 9 things that I have learned myself personally investing over the past 9 years, but also working with tens of thousands of high net worth investors coming into this space, not seeing some of the common pitfalls, mistakes that could cost you tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm going to walk you through exactly what these 9 things are after working with so many people like you that are looking to build their portfolio, build generational wealth, or protect it for the future generation. So first one is most people buy Bitcoin like they're just buying shares on their brokerage account or bank account. You click, you buy, you pay fees and hope for the best. Now, when you are spending millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars in Bitcoin and digital assets, it's a little bit different because of the hidden losses that occur. So the things that happen at scale are the fees and the spreads get ginormous. If you're buying on normal exchanges and not using OTC desks, you get absolutely wiped out with fees. If you're structuring it the wrong way, taxes can be huge. And also the entry and exit strategies and how you deploy and how you actually take profits are big because the market moves so fast. Also things like estate planning for your future generation, multi-sig wallets, custody, where do you store, how do you not get scammed is everything. So the first one is the fees and spreads and how much you're actually losing. So most people don't actually know this until you actually made the transaction. So what typically happens if you're investing on a platform is that they'll say there's like no fees or it's like 1% fees or 0.5% fees. But what they actually take is the spread. So they will buy Bitcoin for $100,000 and sell it to you for $101,000. The further down the list you go when you're buying like altcoins, it could be up to 2, 3, even 4% spreads. If you're spending $500,000 on a transaction and you're spending 3% on spreads, that's going to be $15,000 on a spread, right? But they won't showcase that because that's how they kind of get away with it by saying it's no fees. So the key takeaway if you're utilizing a platform is that to use OTC. So OTC stands for over-the-counter trading. It's the institutional way to get in to trade larger sizes. I personally utilize OTC when transacting anywhere over $25,000 at a time. I would recommend you reach out to your exchange and ask them if they have an OTC. Most of the Australian exchanges have it. Most of the overseas exchanges have it as well. And you can then start to negotiate and have better pricing, tighter spreads, and even slippage. So slippage is when you've got low liquidity in crypto and you're trying to get in and out of markets. Sometimes you can lose a bit on slippage as well. Usually you also have someone you can speak to. If you are a client of Collective Shift, if you work with us, we work with high net worth individuals. We have partnerships you can get access to where you basically get to call up a broker essentially and make the transaction. If you are interested, you just reach out to us there. Faster settlement times as well, custom terms, and minimums usually start around $25,000 or $100,000. There's some different ones that I would recommend. I use SwiftX, but there's also CoinStash, CoinSpot have it. You've got Independent Reserve. You've got brokerages like Caleb and Brown and Uptrade. These guys charge higher fees and spreads, but they do have more of like a brokerage person you can speak to. You've got different platforms that will do different things. Overseas, I would recommend like Coinbase Prime or Coinbase One. You've also got Kraken OTC, so if you're in Canada or the US, I would recommend those guys. Binance don't have Australian dollar on-ramps here, which is quite difficult, so you want to find a platform that you can actually deposit Australian dollars in or the local currency. There are some big problems at the moment with banks, especially in Australia, blocking transactions. So we've heard ING are good. I personally use ING. I've transferred multiple six-figure transactions to crypto exchanges there. I've heard Macquarie okay, NAB Bank are okay, ANZ I've heard mixed signals from, CommBank terrible. Some of these platforms from banks like restrict up to $10,000 at a time. Some of them are freezing accounts. It's absolutely wild. So if you are wanting to trade and transact, larger amounts of capital, I would recommend getting that money onto a crypto exchange to buy or get ready to buy first. If you are doing that, what I recommend doing is moving from your bank when you've got cash here, even if you're not ready to buy yet or you don't have a plan or a strategy, when you move to a crypto exchange, I would be buying something like USDC or USDT. These are US dollar stable coins. So these are flat level transactions, coins that don't move in price, but you can earn anywhere between 5 and even 10% yield on those stable coins while it's sitting there. All right. So Australian exchanges, unfortunately, aren't allowed to do this. You can get it on Coinbase. I think you can get up to 3.5% on Coinbase. All right. If you move it onto like something like Kraken or Binance, you can get even higher, but it's how you can start to earn a yield on those stable coins, usually more than you're getting in the bank. The next one is tax structures. So SMSFs, which are essentially self-managed super funds in Australia, your IRAs or self-directed IRAs in the US, can legally hold Bitcoin and other crypto if rules are followed. We're not financial advisors, so please speak with your personal accountant on this. But if you have an SMSF set up, you can do this. We've got some partners as well that allow us to do this. You can use Crypto Tax Australia. There's some other providers you can reach out to. There's also there's a few others you can go to. You can even reach out to your exchange. They've probably got partners as well. Again, we can help with this, but a lot of people are moving and there's a big exodus of people moving into an SMSF and buying digital assets under their self-managed super fund. The reason being is that as a capital capital gains asset you've got for the remainder of, well, basically this financial year, which if you've held assets prior to July this year, you're going to get the 50% capital gains discount under your personal name. That's gone as of July next year. So under an SMSF, taxed earnings are at 15%. Even if you're in your pension phase, it can be 0%. But if you are above $3 million in value, an additional 15% on earnings are attributed. So you can check that out. Again, there's a lot of people moving towards an SMSF and holding crypto there. I would definitely recommend though reaching out to a specialist accountant or lawyer first, but there are some big sort of benefits on doing it under an SMSF. The other structures as well that I like, personally, I'm investing under a company structure. So I'm using my collective shift, if you're a business owner, to invest under my business structure, because I can basically take cash that I'm making in the business and move that into digital assets before I pay tax. So usually, you got to pay tax after 12, 18 months of after a financial year. 12 to 18 months, you've got to pay down that tax depending on when you pay your income tax and your company tax. But when you're making profits day to day, like let's say we make money, this month, this quarter, I can actually take those profits, buy on the balance sheet, and then push the tax down the line. So I'm actually generating that investment now and avoiding the opportunity cost of having to wait, or put it into my personal name and pay 47% and then invest, right? So if you can do it under a company structure, or even moving into a bucket company as well, that's another way to do it, because then you're capped at 30% on the company tax rate, and then you can keep all those profits inside that bucket company before moving it to your personal name where you want to spend it. So there's some there's some different structures you can do there. There's also different things depending on how you've got that bucket company structured, you can do different things, offset expenses and things like that, if you can showcase that that's actually more than a hobby and a business. So some different things there that we work with clients on, but something to look into with your accountant as well. The big one as well that I would say, like as you're investing larger amounts into a portfolio, is that for most high net worth investors that we work with, you really want to make sure that your portfolio has decent amount of your portfolio, if it isn't already, into what we call the core asset, which is Bitcoin. All right, a lot of people, when they're starting off, they're not very smart with their capital. They'll go and buy a bunch of altcoins, trying to chase gains. We really start with Bitcoin as a core asset, and then we're utilizing on-chain businesses, which are the next iteration of altcoins to make capital, and then sell those down to buy more Bitcoin. All right, so we like to think about growing our assets, growing our wealth in Bitcoin, and utilizing on-chain businesses to do that faster. But it's a big one that we like to ensure that we're doing with our clients is in making sure the goal for a lot of our high net worth individuals is around either creating or protecting generational wealth, and there's no other asset class, in my opinion, to do that than Bitcoin. All right, so Bitcoin is our Lord and Savior there. The other one as well that we like to look into is yield. So if you've got on-chain businesses, like you've got altcoins in your portfolio generating a yield, utilizing DeFi, you can utilize staking. You can even do this in your cold wallet. So this is when you are basically putting your crypto and supplying it to the network. So let's say you've got Ethereum or Solana, you can actually put this in and secure it on the blockchain to help the transaction run, and they're going to pay you in rewards, and they can pay you anywhere between 5 to 12%. Solana, as an example, gets 7% right now. So it's a way where you can stake and own a part of the network, and they're going to pay you in rewards. And you can do this through things like your ledger. So if you've got assets in a wallet, like we recommend, all right, you can even put this in your wallet, and that's going to sign the transactions and do all that for you, and you get paid monthly, which is really cool. The next part is the entry strategy. So when you're looking to enter the market and you've got a large amount of capital you're looking to deploy, all right, let's say you go 500k and you're wondering, how do I build out that portfolio? You've got kind of two options. One is you got the lump sum, or you got phased. For larger capital, phased entry does reduce the timing risk. So as an example, what I like to do is split this up into, let's say 100k chunks. We're going to have like 5 of these, and we're going to do this over like a 5-week period, right, or a 10-week period, and we'll invest the market in these chunks. Now you may want to put this all into BTC. Let's say we want to build like a third of our portfolio in BTC, and then we start to buy altcoins down here. That's something you can do. Or another way of doing this is actually just you actually build the portfolio and you deploy that $100,000 at each point, like 75% BTC, 25% altcoins at each part of the market. So you're deploying that at the right time. But it all really is about, looking at where we are in the market. So, for me, looking at things like the 200-week moving average, where are we in terms of the market cycle to the Bitcoin halving event? Where are we with our on-chain analysis? Are we oversold? Are we overbought? Where we are in the cycle really depends. But I like to split this out over a period of time. One thing I like to do as well is like actually put 1/5, 1/10, however much risk you want to take, and put this into stable coins and just hold that for a rainy day. All right, and the reason I like to do that is because we can earn 5 to 10% while it's sitting there in USDC, and we've just got that in case anything pops up, a new opportunity, a new investment. The market may take a bit of a nosedive. We get an opportunity to accumulate lower assets. It's something I like to do. More advanced people as well can even like fluctuate their buys and entry points depending on how the market is positioned, how oversold it is, how overbought it is, how far it goes down, but I like to, build that entry strategy really around having that strategy first. What are my goals? What are the on-chain businesses? So we start with goals, structure, time horizon, and then what are our risk appetite for on-chain businesses, and that will give us an indication of how much risk we want to take and what the portfolio allocation looks like. All right. Now, exit strategy is a big one. I like to split this between, you got Bitcoin exit strategy, and you've got then your altcoin / on-chain businesses, right? And the reason why we split this up is because they're two different asset classes. All right. So Bitcoin, something that I like to grow my wealth in. Like, I don't really want to sell it. I may want to sell if I need to utilize that cash. If I need to deploy money into the market, I will look to do that. But ultimately, I'm looking to not sell my Bitcoin if I don't have to. I look at, actually lending against my Bitcoin, right? This is how all the wealthy individuals make money, how you probably made money in property, is we look to lend against it. So we can hold our Bitcoin and we can then lend against it for, an interest rate, let's say 7%, and then we can get cash flow back. And, Bitcoin's compounding at 40% on average over the past 10 years. Bitcoin continues to compound and grow, and that can pay down the interest rate, and you're effectively not selling it, meaning there's no capital gains tax. So that's how I think about Bitcoin. Altcoins on the other side, I use a tiered approach. I look at different things like, predefined levels or even on-chain signals. The MV-RV ratio is a great one to look at where we are with sentiment and analysis on the market and where we are in the Bitcoin halving cycle. But I like to have tiered levels and laddered sells on my altcoins. I like to just use 33% as a core one. All right. So, taking 33% off at a time. This may be after like a 2x, 3x. This is just an example, but that allows me to make sure I'm paying that, I'm getting enough profits to pay down the tax, and I'm looking to move those assets over and essentially build up my Bitcoin stack. What I like to do when I'm exiting though is looking at, OTC again. So OTC, over the counter. This is where you get stung a lot of money when you're taking a lot of profits out. I've done this before. When I'm taking large amounts of money out, you want to be able to get it in and out using OTC, because it's going to save you tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, and ensuring that your tax optimization is already set up. Remembering, if you do this under the right structure, you can keep those. Let's say it's under a company structure and you made whatever it is, $1 million, right? It's going to be capped at 30% under your company structure, because if you got it under your personal name, all right, and you're making $1 million and then you sell, this is going straight to 47%. Under an SMSF, you're not getting taxed until you take the money out at the end. So it's capped at 15%. So you make sure your structure is right as well when you're taking profits out. This always comes back to actually getting in at the right structure and ensuring you're doing it in the best way possible. The next one is custody. So you've got different ways to protect large holdings. You've got institutional custodians like Coinbase Custody. You've got Fidelity. You've got like the likes of BlackRock. This is best if you're wanting to have, a large amount of capital that you don't want to hold yourself and you want to have it on a platform. Sometimes they'll charge you a fee. Then you've got exchange custody. You've got platform risk there. So if you're just holding it on like SwiftX or CoinSpot or Coinbase or something like that, it is easy, but you do have a exchange custody risk. So make sure you have, you want to have, things like just the basics, guys, like, a password manager, like 1Password, right? Never just use any old password. You want to have 2FA on. I recommend something like Authy or Google Authenticator, and you just want to make sure that all your backup emails and backup emails are secure. That's a big one. If you're holding on an exchange, self-custody, I like Ledger or Trezor. Again, you're going to have 24 words to keep. A lot of people don't realize that you can actually have multiple copies of the ledger that all go into the one vault. All right. So you can have like the same wallet and you just restore the same keys onto the other wallet. So you start with one wallet, get the keys, your 24 words, and then you just essentially like recover other wallets. So you can have different copies of the same wallet. Because remember, your crypto doesn't live on the wallet. It's just your access keys to access the blockchain. So if you're worried about security, I like to split up my words over different locations, never have any on one spot, have multiple wallets spread out as well. So, there's no risk of, getting lost and not having another copy, and never store this online, guys. Make sure you have that offline only in a vault. You can put it with a lawyer, with a bank, something like that is a big one. The other one is hybrid or collaborative. This is where you got like multi-sig wallets. Multi-sig wallets are really cool because you can basically have access to, different people having different keys that are all required to authorize a spend. So you can have like 2 or 3 or 5. So let's say there's like, you, your partner, your lawyer, your friend, and I don't know who this is, me. And you can have like 1, 2, 3 are required to get a transaction. That again makes it a little bit safer that no one's going to take your wallet and take the money off. The other one as well is eliminates a single point of failure. So if you are only one with a wallet and then something happens to you, well then you've got other people that can also access it. The other one as well, with with hardware wallets. Ledger, Trezor are great. There's a few others you can check out. Just make sure you're never buying off someone else. Like they're not secondhand wallets. They're fresh, clean from factory, and you're documenting the recovery words offline and never storing it online. Estate planning is another one. Estate planning is really allowing and making sure that you've got things set up for the next of kin. So you've got, memorandum of wishes. Maybe you've got a sealed letter with the details with a lawyer. Appoint a tech-savvy executor or like a digital accelerator executor. This is a big one. It's a big one just to make sure you've got proper processes for someone else to follow. If your wife or your partner, isn't aware of how to actually access it, make sure you've got, real, instructions for them to follow, because the biggest risk here, guys, is just lost keys equals permanent loss. All right. Especially when, incapacitated or death. It's really a big one. And, unfortunately, especially in Australia, the capital gains rollover. It's a big one to make sure that your next of kin and stuff are actually able to get access to it and can get the liquidity, and it survives through when it's not getting, massive tax. So that's the big ones for the high net worth investors. If you're looking to deploy more than $500,000, again, I've got clients up to 30 million, 32 million in their portfolio. These are the sort of the core things I would be thinking about. If you are a high net worth investor and you need support, you don't have time, you want to work with myself and our team to help you build your structure, your strategies out. We work with limited clients around the world. If you're interested, you can click the button in the link below and you can have a look at how we operate and how we work with high net worth individuals building their digital asset portfolio in the link below. But anything else I've missed there, feel free to add in the comments below. Let me know what videos you want me to create next for you all, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.